Good morning. So today's presentation, we continue talking about or discussing our novel and Animal Farm themes overviewed. As you know, this presentation will help you understand and break down the structure, the ideas of the novel that you're reading throughout this semester. So Animal Farm is a didactic text. What does it mean by a didactic text? This is it. Our aim is to teach to read a number of lessons on. So we can learn different types of lessons from this novel. And these lessons include class, equality and inequality, power, control, and corruption. And each lesson will be discussed further for more clarification. Still, you need to apply your understanding while you're reading the novel. So these themes are explored through the events and characters in the novel and are an allegory for the Russian Revolution, as we've always touched on it. The animals and happiness represents the class struggle, the challenges and struggling. This leads to the rebellion, which offers some equality. Because, animals were looking for equality, so they rebel against the human being or mankind. Then the big actions allow inequality back on the farm. So because if they're greedy, they start to establish the control, referring here to the pigs, as we said last lecture. The theme of power and control is explored throughout the novel and is highlighted by the characters' relationships on the farm. Okay? So, yes. The themes are political and explore what happened with Russian society in 1917 onwards. Orwell originally subtitled the novel A Fairy Story, suggesting the intended it he intended it as a as what as you know uh, actually Orwell originally subtitled it the novel A Fairy Story, suggesting he intended it as a fable. We should now know what do we mean by a fable. Um, so as I mentioned in previous lectures that the type of Animal Farm as an allegory for the Russian Revolution, representing some of the characters during that time in 1917. It's important to remember that even though the novel is based on events that took place in 1917, the themes, الفكرة والأفكار are still relevant today. You can apply them to today's life. Okay? Now we're moving to talk about more in details about the class in Animal Farm. So now let's turn into understanding the class in Animal Farm. So we start with the class discussion and later we end with study questions or study guide for you in order to more understand the context of the novel. You know, before the revolution of 1917, Tsar Nicholas II ruled Russia. He's a man who ruled Russia before that time. The ruling classes had money and power, whilst most of the population were poor, exploited, or used peasant workers or from the working class. These people lived in terrible conditions, and what they farmed was taken from them. leaving them to face starvation and poverty. The revolution that came in 1917 sought to overthrow the Tsar and change the balance of society to give power back to the working class. The plot of Animal Farm closely parallels these events. So the plot of this novel tries to depict the same picture that was during 1917 or during that time. Sorry. So in Animal Farm, the Orwell uses the animals to highlight the hardships of the working class. He uses Mr. Jones as a symbol for the emperor, the tyranny, to highlight how lazy and neglectful the Tsar was towards his people, you know, and the animals each represent a different section of society at that time. Yes, we use animals to represent, the characters. They are metaphor for what happened to people. Yeah, the animals, like the working class of Russia, had short, difficult lives, working to produce things that the ruling class would take for themselves, is sort of greedy, and leaving the working class starving. And the rebellion on a farm seeks to change this, but the revolutionary pigs soon adopt the ways of a ruling class that they sought to abolish. So that's what happened at the end. When animals altogether took control of a farm, okay, and expel mankind, the pigs start to do the same as what the mankind had done to them. So that's the idea of class in Animal Farm. And now we turn into study questions or guide questions. Please try to answer these questions from a text of a novel you're reading. They would help you guide you understand more of the novel. How's the theme of class shown in the novel? How is shown? Okay, like in Animal Farm, Orwell explores class through different, yeah, different things. Number two, how does Orwell show hardships of animals? How did he show that? And number three, how does Orwell show exploitation or the use, يعني استغلال of the animals by Mr. Jones? How is that shown in in uh, in the novel? So maybe through the pigs, take any extra apples and milk for, yeah. Sorry, that's exploitation of. One more question you may add is the how does Orwell show the exploitation of the animals by the pigs? The first question by Mr. Jones, and then later were exploited by the pigs. Okay, so now we turn into uh, studying equality and inequality in Animal Farm. We discuss it. How is it? In Animal Farm, Orwell uses the animals and their actions to make the reader think about equality and inequality. For in 1917, the majority of Russian people suffered from great inequality. They had far less money and food than the ruling class. So classes there divided the society. Likewise, before the rebellion in Animal Farm, Mr. Jones takes everything that the animals have away from them. After the rebellion, the animals are free from the tyranny of Mr. Jones and seek to establish equality amongst themselves. So when mankind is expelled out of a farm, the animals thought they would live equally. One of the commandments, the seventh commandments they agree upon, is all animals are equal. However, this quality is short lived, it didn't last forever. and the pigs begin to bend the rules until inequality returns to the farm. So who starts to break the rules of the seven commandments are the pigs. And later they took control of a farm and established classes in a society, inequality again and again. So that's how equality and inequality appears between life on a farm and life during or before the Russian Revolution 1917 at that time. So now I give you here a list of guide questions that place or that I want you to seek the answers. Okay? A question number one: how is the theme inequality and inequality shown in the novel? Okay? And question number two: how does Orwell show animals and mankind? Okay. Question number three: how does Orwell show the pigs taking control of the farm? When the pigs take control, they move into a farmhouse. These are hints. Yes. So I want you to use your thinking to discover such kind of questions because they'll help you break down the understanding of the novel. So for the upcoming maybe slide or lecture, we move into the third theme listed in the first slide of this presentation as power and control in animal farm. Until then, study these type of questions. Okay, now we turn to our third theme, and that's power and control in animal form. So let's discuss this theme to finish or to wrap up our three themes that listed in the first slide as class and equality and inequality, and power and control and corruption. How does corruption appear? So power and control in animal farm. Power and control is one of the most important themes in Animal Farm. Orwell explores political power. Mr. Jones owns the farm and the animals and uses his men and wives to keep them under control and maintain his power. So they were mistreated. The animals were highly mistreated by Mr. Jones in order to establish his power and control over them. Orwell shows that the animals have the power to challenge Mr. Jones' control and take over the farm. Using power in a positive way, he then explores how the pigs use rhetoric and propaganda to establish themselves in power and take control of the farm. It's interesting that the work animals, especially Boxer, the horse, have great physical power, but they don't use it to break free from the control of the pigs because he always would listen to what they say, despite his great physical power. Old Measure is partly based on Karl Marx, Vladimir Lenin. Karl Marx was a German philosopher who lived during the 19th century. We talk about it in the third lecture. His ideas formed the basis of communism. His ideas are collectively known as Marxism, الشيوعية والماركسية, like animalism. So when the animals established their rule, they agreed upon animalism. زي الحيوان يعني إشارة إلى الحيوان وعندها قواعد وكذا. من ضمن القواعد أن كل الحيوانات متساوية. All animals are equal. Okay, so in a novel, as you read through the novel, you will find these information. He developed theories on how power structures in society keep people under control. Vladimir Lenin was a Russian revolutionary who established a form of Marxism in Russia in the early 20th century. Orwell explores the ideas of power leading to corruption. Many of the characters in the novel are eventually corrupted by the power they have, particularly the pigs. As you will read through the novel, you will discover how the pigs were corrupted by the use of power as they manipulate their position of leadership to exploit other animals. So, this is mainly about power and control. Please help these information to guide you understand the text of the novel. Now we turn into study questions. One question is, how is the theme of power and control shown in the novel? Okay, hear me out. I will try to answer this question for you, but the other two questions you're required to answer them. Okay? So one part is Mr. Jones exploiting his power and treating the animals badly. He mistreated animals. That's one theme of power and control shown in the novel. And the second, the rebellion, and how the animals use their power to take over the farm. What they fed up, the animals are fed up of the mistreatment of Mr. Jones, and they go against mankind and expel them out of the farm. Number three, the pigs and how they cleverly control the other animals. See the cleverness or how what tools or what propaganda, what rhetoric the pigs have done in order to establish their control over other animals. However, they started with other animals the revolution against mankind and they established 7 commandments. And later they start to bend these rules or commandments. Okay? So, yeah, that's the main part of this question, the theme of power and control shown in a novel. Now I want you to answer these questions. How does Orwell show Mr. Jones? Okay. Question number 3. How does Orwell show the rebellion? Yes, in a novel. Just read it, think about it, study the text well again and again, because sometimes some parts of the text you might not understand it like from the first sight. You need to reread it again and do your best. Talk to you next lecture. Thank you.